Ole Miss beat LSU last night. Ole Miss 24, LSU 19. I would give it 3.5 Chalai on the 1 to 5 scale. This one got a little bit personal for me last week. So I'm going to talk about Ole Miss first, but I want to mention something about LSU. I got nothing but love for LSU. I love about 98% of the LSU fan base. About 2% of the LSU fan base are a bunch of clowns. And they ran their mouth a lot last week. And then they got worked pretty thoroughly yesterday. And the problems are very obvious. Very obvious. Lane Kiffin did you a favor because finally that portion of the LSU fan base that was just incapable of acknowledging obvious flaws until they lost a game, well, they finally lost a game yesterday. So now it's okay to talk about all the flaws. So anyway, I'll get to that in a second. Winners first. Ole Miss. I can't believe this game was even within reach in the fourth quarter. They pretty thoroughly outplayed and outcoached LSU. I know a lot of you, I think most of you probably watched this game because it was the mid-afternoon window. The bad luck stat in this one, which is the opposite of a padlock stat, the bad luck stat is Ole Miss had 14 penalties for 109 yards. Now, if you told me that on Friday, I would say, congrats, LSU. You're going to go in there and win a game. In reality, Ole Miss being so undisciplined is what kept LSU in the game. So it ended up, that's not a padlock stat. That's a bad luck stat. That would have fooled me on Friday if you told me that. Teams are revealing their identities right now. And with Ole Miss, no one forecasted this. I'm convinced 70+% of the Ole Miss fan base did not know anything about Trinidad Chambliss when this season started. They knew that Austin Simmons is the new face of this team, and Austin Simmons this, and Austin Simmons that, hey, he's hurt. What are we going to do? Who's our backup? Trinidad. Didn't we travel there? Didn't mom and dad go there for their honeymoon? No. This is a player. Oh, but he's from D2. He's from FCS. I heard that a lot last week. FCS quarterback. An FCS quarterback is going to beat LSU. Well, Kiffin just went and got the player. He didn't import all of Ferris State to Oxford. So you didn't play an FCS team. You played a quarterback that was good enough to win a national championship in FCS. And there's this general ignorance, because most people don't watch FCS football, that there are no good players down there. There are no high caliber, like SEC, Big Ten caliber players. There are. The transfers happen every single year. This one just so happened to be at quarterback, and it wasn't for a starting role. It was to provide depth. But here's the problem. The problem is Kiffin can get pretty good production out of anyone, it seems. Trinidad Chambliss included. Not to disrespect him, because what I just said is hyperbolic. It's not really true. It just seems that way, which has got to be a gut punch. By the way, you know how bad Lane Kiffin makes the rest of the country look? You know how bad Penn State looks when they've had Drew Aller all these years, and Kiffin just goes and grabs a guy from Ferris State. Oh, my starter's hurt. I'll win with him. You know how bad that makes Clemson look when Cade Klubnik's been there all this time, and there was all this hoopla, as Meemaw would say a couple of cycles ago. We got Garrett Riley. We're going to pair him with Cade Klubnik, and Kiffin's like, I'll just go get a kid from FCS and not even plan on starting him. Oh, I've got to start him? All right, we'll win anyway. Yeah, it makes you look pretty bad. That also wears out the patience for a lot of offensive staffs elsewhere across the country. So Lane Kiffin gets a lot of folks in trouble. He's gotten himself in plenty of trouble over the years. By the way, I didn't mention it Sunday night. I cannot recommend that documentary strongly enough. ESPN did a really good job on that thing. I can't remember what the title is. Ryan McGee did a good job on it too. Friend of the program, Ryan McGee. The Many Lives of Lane Kiffin. Thank you, Jesse. He didn't say anything. I just remembered it. I would encourage you to go watch that. So anyway, that's what's happening at Ole Miss right now. The identity's forming. So there are a lot of people around Ole Miss who would tell you next year, oh, this team's going to do something next year. Why? Obviously, I'm saying that now that I know they beat LSU. I was very confident they would beat LSU. Let me tell you something else that was happening around the SEC last week. I'll share it because I already started to say it. There were a lot of people around the SEC very confident that Ole Miss would handle LSU. And it was because of a specific matchup. So, I just always want to be careful. I don't. You guys who watch the show long enough know I never burn anyone. I never burn sourcing or run my mouth about stuff I've been told to be quiet about. No one told me to be quiet about this. So let's just talk about it. LSU's got problems. These weren't revealed yesterday. LSU's had problems all season. Probably one of the worst things, in retrospect, that happened to them is they played Clemson in week 1. Well, why is that bad, Josh? We won the game. It's not bad. It's great that you won the game. You've got very, very serious flaws that it turns out are the same flaws Clemson has, and because you played each other week 1, only one of you could lose the game. And there's this thing that happens in college football where there are people who would be ultra critical of this thing in a loss that totally ignore that thing if you've won games. LSU has had flaws all season long. They cannot run the ball to save their lives. They haven't been able to all season, but because they hadn't lost a game yet. We'll get back to the video 1 second. Do me one quick favor, look down, make sure you're subscribed. Most of you are. If you're not, please do so. It's the way we keep the channel free, we keep the videos coming, and we get to do college football year round as God intended. All right, as promised, back to the video. People bite your head off if you start mentioning it. So last week, I am telling you throughout the week, I'm getting lit up because we're talking about the LSU Ole Miss game. And I picked Ole Miss to win, and I was very confident it was one of my favorite games of the week because I thought there was a very glaring disadvantage that LSU had. Number one, they can't run the ball. Number two, your offensive staff is badly outmatched by their defensive staff. Well, that's not just me sitting here spitballing. That was one of the most popular talking points just around the league last week. I had other coaches hitting me up saying, hey, that LSU Ole Miss game, edge significantly Ole Miss defensive staff against LSU. So, you just mentioned fractions of that. Oh, you're a hater. You're a hater. Boy, this used to be a great show. Now it's just clickbait. That's just, no, what it is telling the truth about your team that you refuse to see. This is to the 2%, not the 98% that I love, but the 2% of LSU clownery amongst the fan base. They don't want you mentioning that stuff. Well, we won games. Oh, and by the way, we're about to go into Oxford. You'll see when we put the pedal down, they're not as good last year. We had that game go the way it did last year, and now we're better, and they're not as good. No, you're not. No, you just hadn't lost a game yet. Well, now you have lost a game. Now, guess what the LSU message boards look like today? A disaster. Because now everyone wants to call it out. It was already there. Who didn't see this? Who in the world was shocked? LSU couldn't run the ball yesterday. They can't run it against air. They can't run it against anyone. And what you have is you got someone like me who has extreme pro-LSU bias. I've always been upfront about this because LSU 2019 is the reason this show ever blew up. I'm very close to that program. I badly want LSU to win, but I won't lie for them and I won't lie about them. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you're telling me already in the Brian Kelly era, we've had a Heisman quarterback that gets wasted because we can't play defense, and then we get the defense figured out, and we're going to waste that because we can't run the ball at Louisiana State University. We can't run the ball. Of all the things that we could struggle with hypothetically, we couldn't get halfway decent DB play a couple of years ago. Now we can't run the ball. This is the state of Louisiana. They're right in your backyard. So talent acquisition, I actually think they've made moves to rectify. It's just that we're still in that position right now. So I think this team's got terminal flaws this year. And I mentioned that last couple of weeks. I tell you another thing. This model that we use, that everyone likes to anecdotally take shots at, it started dropping LSU 3 weeks ago. Just like it started dropping South Carolina before South Carolina started losing. Started dropping LSU. So the signs were already there. 2 of 11 on third down. And think about this. You want to know where lack of a ground game bites you? You want to know when you're putting a clearly less than 100% Garrett Nussmeier in an unfair position? Not only were they 2 of 11 on third down yesterday, their average distance to gain on third down was 8.1 yards. That's so pathetic and is never a situation you should be in. So I'm sitting here still saying the same things I've been saying about LSU, only now everyone will agree because they lost a football game. It was there already. It was there already. One of the consistent tasks in this league, week to week, is to find consistency. just consistency in performance. When you can't run the ball, you will not have consistency in performance. Now, here's the difference. All right, so it was really, really interesting to watch Ole Miss and LSU and then watch Bama and Georgia. So Ole Miss beats LSU because LSU can't run the ball. LSU barely stayed in the game because they couldn't run the ball. Did you watch Bama against Georgia? Bama has not conventionally run the ball worth a crap all year. And yet their offense still functions. It still hums. Why is that? Because they got an excellent offensive coaching staff that understands if we're not going to conventionally run it like we did in 1938 right here between the tackles, we better be able to generate some version of it. We better be able to gain it in the aggregate of the way we run sweeps and we do motion this and motion that and we hit tailbacks out of the backfield really quick. Kublik described that brilliantly on this show last Thursday. You don't have that edge with your offensive staff. You just don't. It's not my job to sit here and break that down. I'm telling you, everyone's picked up on that. You had many cases yesterday where Ole Miss sat there and Pete Golding said, yeah, I'll just bring three. I'll just play three-man front. You still can't run it against us. And you know what? He's right, because you can't. And they won't be able to the rest of the year. No one's about to sell me, by the way, that when they get Caden Durham back, who was hurt, and that's not great, but they get him back and it'll be rectified. No, it won't. No, it will not be a strength for them at any point this year. Anyway, it just rubs me the wrong way because me of all people being labeled an LSU hater boggled my mind last week. Boggled the mind. And a lot of the clowns, again, it's about 2%, not 98, that did that, are nowhere to be found on www.whatever.com today because we're dealing with the 2%. I understand that. I love 98% of you guys. So to you, I say we're in this together. To the rest of you, I say things I'm not willing to say on air, actually.